822 at News Radio 710 Keel, Robert J. Wright and Aaron McCarty, and the always readily available City of Shreveport Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Brian Crawford. Hey, Brian, how are you this morning?
Hey, good morning, folks. How are y'all?
Thank you for joining us
I
so
hope you
rapidly,
still love
so
me.
readily. No, you're stretching the love band.
I'm so angry about the LSU situation. I can't.
Just unrelated to anything, and we'll talk more about this later. And I've used this phrase a bunch of times, to use NASA, to use space lexicon. Did Florida screw the pooch on this one or what?
Let me tell you what. Florida didn't screw the pooch, Robert. The SEC commissioner, he needs to understand he's the boss, and he allowed Florida to drive that train. He should have stood up at the beginning of the week and said, we're moving that game to a neutral site or to Baton Rouge, and taking some leadership instead of allowing Florida to dictate what happens.
At the end of the day, Florida, they had to know, because we're going to play it in Gainesville. We're going to play it in Gainesville. At the end of the day, didn't it turn? They would rather have not played than moved the game to Baton Rouge.
I don't think there's any question that Florida knew, with LSU's talent and resurgence, that they were going to get their butt whipped, is what happened. And they've got a number of injuries. And so instead of taking a loss, they basically took a knee and basically dictated to the SEC commissioner, who, from my understanding, he's the one that calls the shots there. But it looks to me like that Florida ended up calling the shots, and the commissioner looked like a wimp.
Yeah, that's a bunch of garbage. Speaking of garbage,
oh God,
wasn't that good?
That was awesome.
Brian, there's a $12 monthly fee in the mayor's budget, which you, I'm sure, do a lot of the heavy lifting to pay for our garbage. And you take issue with us getting kind of crazy about it. We have not paid a fee. Is that right?
We're always happy to have a discussion about it. We don't take issue with anybody having some concern about the city and wanting to have a conversation. That's always good for us.
We don't pay a fee right now for garbage. Is that accurate?
We pay $0 for garbage collection right now. It's subsidized, as Councilman Corbin said, through the general fund. And that's been okay for a number of years, Aaron, when we had some surplus revenue. But over the last 5 or 6 years, really since the recession of about 2008, our revenues have been going in the opposite direction. And so to pay for that garbage fee that used to be paid for by sales tax and those types of things, we've been having to borrow money, transfer money from, say, $6.8 million from the Street Special Revenue Fund, which that money is supposed to be going to fix streets. We've been having to transfer about $9 million from the Riverfront Development Fund to prop up the general fund, and that's supposed to be going toward economic development and the development of our riverfront. And so one of the things that we had to do was we had to look at, and we didn't look at just garbage, we looked at a number of different things in trying to make this budget a solid document. Mayor Tyler is always concerned about making sure that we are on solid financial ground. And so privatization is always a conversation that's had. And so solid waste is always one of the indicators or one of the areas that we take a look at. And we looked at privatization and actually getting rid of solid waste altogether. But when we did that, like our sister city in Bossier City, they have a private service that runs solid waste. If the city was to do that to save some money and say, you know what, we're not going to collect solid waste anymore, because there's nothing in the law that says we have to collect solid waste. We do that as a city service, but the fact that it's being paid for with street money and riverfront money was something that we looked at and saying, well, if we gave it to a private provider and the city freed up some of that revenue, what would the effect be on the citizens? And the effect would be somewhere in the area of $24 a month, which is what Bossier City pays with a private provider, or the parish, Caddo Parish and Bossier Parish, both have a choice between a couple of providers that pay about $30 a month. Or we could solidify, create an enterprise fund for our solid waste collections and only charge the fee that it costs us to collect that. Nothing overhead, nothing extra money going anywhere else. What's the minimum that we could charge that covers that cost? And it's $12. So it's almost half. In fact, it is half of what Bossier City charges. It's more than half of what you would charge in the parish. If you look at the other cities that I had talked about before, Baton Rouge, Alexandria, Monroe, everyone pays a solid waste fee. And we're not doing it because of that. We're doing it because we're trying to save our solid waste department, continue to provide a great service that we do in solid waste by charging a minimum fee, solidifying solid waste, and not having to borrow that money from streets anymore or riverfront to pay for that fee. So that's why it's being done.
Mr. Bryan, part of Miss Ollie's budget is a raise for all city employees making $85,000 a year and under. Admittedly, that's a pretty big bite, right?
That's about $3.4 million. And I can tell you that there hasn't been a raise for city employees since 2008. So you're looking at about a 9-year span. They have had a few cost of living increases in there, but they haven't had a raise to see, because usually insurance costs go up, retirement costs go up. They haven't seen something significant on their check in 9 years. And Robert and Aaron, you know this. I hope your bosses know this. The greatest resource that any company has is its people. And the city employees, especially those lower-level employees, these raises don't affect me, the mayor, any of our department heads, no one who makes $85,000, so we don't benefit from this at all.
Pardon me. I would assume this is about 95% of city employees it would affect?
You're probably about right. I'd say about 80% of the city employees are in that category. And so to give them something to offset the insurance increases that we're providing, they're having to pay more for their retirement. They've done that over a number of years, and to show a little appreciation, because they've been neglected for a number of years. And the mayor promised when she came in 2015 that, give us a little time to get, a year under our belt. Let's see what we're doing with some of the finances that we've inherited, some of the challenges that we inherited with $1.5 billion in infrastructure needing to be done, and we're not even able to keep street money in there because we're having to subsidize the garbage service to pay for it. Those are huge financial challenges. And so this is something that we're doing to pass along to solidify the solid waste department, creating an enterprise fund, and only charging what it costs us to pick up that service, so it provides future stability for that service and the budget going forward.
About a minute left, Brian.
Yep.
The garbage fee would be, I assume, put on our water bill, or otherwise me and my neighbor will just team up and I'll put my garbage by their house.
Right. Yeah, I was listening a while ago. It'll be put on the water bill. And Robert, you were talking about socialized garbage service. That's what we're already paying, because everybody's paying for everybody else's garbage service right now. It will be put on the water bill. And one of the things I want to say real quickly, I know we're running out of time, just to offset this cost, let me give you something to think about. In the last 16 years, property millages in Shreveport have been rolled back 15 mills. They were 51 mills in 1999. They're about 36 mills now. For the average property owner, that's $150 savings per $100,000 of value on their property. And so they've saved, that money over the years. We've rolled property taxes back this year. So whenever we have been able to, we've tried to offset that cost and minimize any type of impact to the citizens that we have to.
Why don't we leave those mills on and not charge everybody a garbage fee?
Well, and that's a good question. The millage that has been rolled off since we've been there wouldn't accommodate that. Of course, we've only been there about a year and a half, and so a lot of those millages were rolled off by previous administrations, and those are questions that I can't answer.
Gotcha.
Well, just to let everybody know, I'll be at the city council meeting soon, one of these weeks, making my pitch for city garbage bags. I think it's a great idea, but
hey, listen, I don't think that's a bad idea. There's a number of different options out there.
Alexandria does it.
That we'll certainly look at it, and I think the main thing here is that we're having a conversation about the challenges that we have in the revenue. Mayor Tyler's made it very clear that she's open, she's transparent. Hey, she's throwing this budget out there to the council and saying, hey, let's have a conversation about it. If there's a better way to build a mousetrap, to do this in a better way, then we're perfectly open to listen to those ideas from the council and the citizens as well during those public meetings.
A man
no hate.
On a mission. I'll be writing up my official proposal soon. Brian, thank you very much. Great talking to you as always.
Hey, thanks. Great talking to y'all this morning.
All right.